What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be a little bit different from what I've been posting lately. As you can see from the title, this is going to be aimed towards the GRE, and I just wanted to kind of give you guys a rundown on my journey to taking the GRE for the first time, what I did, what I used to study, just so maybe you can learn from my process. I pretty much just taught myself. I didn't take any classes. I didn't want to waste $1,000 on classes for the GRE when I found out ways that I can do it on my own. But like I said, you can take it with a grain of salt, learn from what I do. Let's get into it, and I will show you what I've been doing to study for the GRE. First, I want to give you a rundown on what I did, how I studied and whatnot, and then we'll go ahead and talk about how the test was for me, if it was hard, if it was easy, how long. I wrote down a couple things here on what I did. So starting off my journey, or starting off studying for the GRE, I first purchased a GRE book that you can get on Amazon. There's a lot of them of different brands. There's some that cost $20 and they range from about $20 to $50. This one, I believe it was around $40, and it's the Princeton review. So yeah, I learned all with the help of this book, and that's not saying that you have to get specifically this book. I'm saying that you can do it with any book. All you need is the practice. The practice it gives you, the lessons it gives you, how it breaks down things. You just need something that's gonna just be straight up about the lessons you'll need to know for this exam. So how I went about it, I just started from basically the first chapter, and it starts off with kind of verbal reasoning and whatnot and the vocabulary words. So what I did was, when I ran into the vocabulary words, I started to make flashcards like this, how I mentioned earlier. So I gave you kind of a brief summary of what I've been studying, or how I've been studying before I took the exam. But so this is kind of more in detail of what I've been doing. And anyway, so I made these flashcards, and I just started off like that, studying every single day with the flashcards on top of a lesson that I was learning. So let's say that I was going over math that day, I still made time to go over my flashcards, because there's just so many vocabulary words that you need to know. And I don't know how much time you have to study, so it's best that you just study vocabulary words every single day, any minute you can, because you don't know what kind of words you're going to come across on the exam. And it's best to know as many as you can, and more so big words that you're not used to using. Because when I started reading the GRE book, I was like, what is this word? Like, where did it come out of? Nobody uses it. So basically those types of words. And I kid you not, even with just like studying for this, like my vocabulary has expanded so much, and I feel like I've even been talking or speaking properly now, or at least trying to, so that way I can get like prepped or prepared for the exam. You know, just kind of have it ingrained in my brain and to help me practice vocabulary words. So yeah, that also helps if you use it in your daily lives to incorporate hard vocabulary words like that. So then after buying this book, I pretty much went through all of it, and at the very end it has 2 practice exams in here, and I started going over them. I did both of them. Then after this, I used their practice exams online. Those you can adjust to being timed. And I'm sure a lot of GRE books they have a lot of practice exams that they offer in the GRE books. Just make sure, like, in the details it tells you, oh, it offers 4 exams, blah blah blah. So I think it's very important that you do get a GRE book with practice exams, because if you don't get anything from my journey, I hope that you can take this with you, that the keynote to studying for the GRE and to getting a stronger score is to just practice. Practice. That's the main ingredient for studying for this exam. So when I started doing the practice exams, the first time I was like taken back. I was never exposed to, well, I mean, obviously I've done math like that before and English and whatnot, but it was just so strategic and just very it was just a different format that I was not used to. So exposure helped me and built up my confidence in being prepared for the exam. The more I kept doing practice exams, the more I'd finish faster and felt more confident and prepared for the exam. So yeah, I read through the whole book. I learned all the lessons that it provided. You know, if you don't have time to do the same, then I would suggest that you move straight to the practice exams. And if you run into something you don't know, then you can refer back to the lessons and teach yourself like that, instead of having to go over every single detail. I just wanted to do that because it made me feel kind of more comfortable in taking the exam, because I knew every single element that was going to be on the exam. Another tip to take from this that is very, very important. So one is practice. You know, put a star on that when you write it down somewhere, like ding 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 ding, practice. Second thing is form a schedule. A schedule will hold you accountable for when you need to study, how many times you got to study that week. It will hold you accountable because you're a big girl now, you're a big boy now, so nobody's gonna be around telling you like, hey, you have this due tomorrow, make sure that it's done tonight so that way you could turn it into your teacher tomorrow. Nobody's gonna tell you to make sure to study the vocabs like tomorrow, or make sure to study this many vocabs. Like, you got to do it all on your own. You got to find out the vocabs you need to know. You have to study on your own time and make sure you study. So for me, it was getting a little hard, you know, to hold myself accountable and to have motivation to study, because to be honest, you do get burnt out studying for the GRE. The GRE is not, most of the time, it doesn't have to do with your major. So at least for me, my major is psychology and I'm going to continue on to studying clinical psychology. GRE has nothing to do with psychology. It has nothing to do with the mental health. So I would get burnt out because it's not my specialty. But what would hold me accountable is my schedule. If it said on my schedule that I needed to go over vocabulary for 2 hours on Monday, all right, I got to make sure that I clear the rest of my schedule or rearrange it to however I need to in order to check off that mark that I need to study the vocabulary words for 2 hours. And then Wednesday, math problems for 1 hour. I need to rearrange my schedule to make sure that I check that box off by the end of the day for the math problems for 1 hour. So it holds you accountable to create some sort of motivation and not be surprised like, oh, I gotta study today. Like, no, you're already mentally prepared that you have to incorporate this and this of studying for the GRE today. So form a schedule. So the third thing, when you buy your book, which I do recommend you buy a book, kind of figure out what your weaknesses are if you don't know already. I had came to figure out that my weakness was verbal reasoning, you know, reading through the paragraphs and answering the questions. That was my weakness as far as like how the GRE formats it, and I kind of aimed towards studying that more, as well as my second weakness was the essays. So I started off with writing an essay untimed, just to see where I was at. I sent it to a friend and I had her correct whatever it is that I was struggling with and wherever I messed up on. And she gave me feedback, she corrected me, and from sending it to her a couple of times and to another friend, I figured out where I was struggling the most in writing essays, and I figured out how to make it better and what words to use to strengthen my essays. So from there I started to time myself. So I started off with 2 hours, then dropped it down to 1 hour, then to 45 minutes, 30, and then I ended up at 25 minutes, which was the goal, and left myself with 5 minutes to proofread it. So keep in mind that you do need extra time to proofread your essays, just so you're aware, because it just cuts off like that. It doesn't matter that if you're still halfway, it doesn't matter. The test will cut you off completely. So those are the things that I worked on, and I had to continuously practice on over and over again, just so I can expose myself to more of those problems that I'd run into. So figuring out your weakness is another one, and practicing more on your weaknesses. But that's not to say to forget about your strengths, because although I do perform better on math, I'm not going to forget about refreshing my memory on different formulas, because those are the types of things that I can like carelessly forget about on the exam. So I have to make sure that those are always refreshed in my memory as well. And then another thing that I did was I downloaded 2 apps that kind of gave me more practice problems. So this is also relating to the fact that you need to practice a lot. So this just gave me more practice problems. The apps were Magoosh Math, and then the official GRE, which is the official like GRE website people, like it's their app, and that was really neat. Look at me using the word neat. I feel like such a grown woman now. So this is the app. I really like this one because it provided a lot of practice problems that I would see on the exam, so I liked that. And last thing was making flashcards for myself. I made a ton of flashcards. I wished I would have made a lot more and studied a lot more before my first exam, but I made as many as I could, and I would study every single day. So even if I was going over math that day, I still made sure to just do a quick run through on the flashcards, or just a chunk of flashcards for that day, so that way I'd always keep them refreshed and always in my memory, because there's just so many words that if you don't continuously study them, you're gonna forget about them, because it's just so much to remember. So try to keep up with your memory by refreshing it every single day with the flashcards. Alright, so that was pretty much it on my journey to taking the GRE for the first time. But until next time, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope I helped in this journey of yours as well, and good luck to you guys who are taking the GRE. Also, just know that I believe in you. Just put your mind to it. You know, if I could do it, then you guys could do it too. So thank you guys for watching. See you guys next time. Peace.